on Facebook, and then welcome Pastor Jeremy to the stage.
All right. Well, we do have some former Super Sunday champions in this audience here, and so I hope that they will send in their A recipe, maybe not their winner recipe, but a recipe in so we can have it in the cookbook and we can all try take a stab at that. Before we get back into our series, Weird, because normal isn't working, you are cordially invited. This is our week of prayer and fasting. I am excited. It is going to be all week long, starting tomorrow from 6 to 7 a.m. promptly. Just 1 hour, because we know everybody has to get to work and do different things. And so 6 o'clock, either in person in this auditorium or through Zoom. Now, how do you get the Zoom link? If you want to join online, you can go to our private Facebook group and find it there. Or if you're on our email list, it's part of the email that Jonathan sent out. If you still don't have it, let us know. Email us at office@wine.family.org, and we'll make sure you get that. It's just want you to be a part of it, whether online or in person. We spend an hour in prayer, and then it's going to cap off next week with a prayer meeting on Sunday night. Now, the theme is God answers prayer, and He does. And there's something special that happens when God's people gather together. And we know God answers individual prayers, but there's something special that happens when we gather together. So if you've never been a part of it, will you join us? Well, Weird, Normal Isn't Working has been a great series so far. This is part 3. If you missed any of them, go on to our YouTube channel, and you could check them out and catch up. For part 1, we talked about how being too busy is normal, and that everybody's too busy. The slogan for that morning was, I have enough time to do everything that God has called me to do. Last week for part 2, we talked about this rhythm of healthy living and how that being empty is normal, but that God shows us an example through Christ of what a good pattern is. And do you remember the slogan, which was the ironic one, is if I don't take time to be, all I'm left is with a bunch of doo-doo. Yeah, that was probably my all-time favorite one. Hold on 1 second. I'm sorry. Hey, Jonathan. I'm getting ready to start my sermon. Can I call you back later? Yeah, no problem. I'll call you. We'll talk later, all right? All right, bye. This morning, we're going to talk about being present, or just being distracted is normal.
Crystal, how you doing today?
I'm all right. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm actually a little stressed right now.
Yeah? What's up?
So, do you remember that skit that I was supposed to write for the sermon on the 24th?
Yeah, which is today.
No, today's the 17th. It's next week that we're doing it.
I don't know how to break this to you, but today is the 24th.
There's no way. Let me check my phone. Crystal, you got to get your dates checked.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Okay, so we're in a little pickle right now. I haven't started it.
Because why?
So you see, what had happened was I was playing a game on my phone that I really like, and I'm actually going to start playing it now because it's too fun. I played it during first service last week, too. It was fun.
I see. So what kind of game is it?
It was a math game. I don't even know why I like it because I don't like math, but this game makes me happy.
Pretty cool. Wait. Wait. You didn't write the script for the skit today because you were playing a game.
Yes.
So I think you should at least start on something, like maybe right now.
I don't even know what to start. Why don't you write it for me?
I think you're losing, by the way.
I can come back. It's fine.
That's literally the wrong number.
It's fine. I can do this.
Sorry. Yeah.
But let Jeremy know that you'll write it. You'll have it done by service.
Me?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be you.
Well, you see, as I told you.
Yeah. So you said me. Well, I'm gonna I have a thing on my phone that I need to get. So I'll just talk to you later then. Good luck.
I see where I stand, Crystal.
Bye.
All right. Being present is an art these days. And I just want you to know that I am not on this stage preaching because I'm an expert at being present, because I've mastered being present. I would sit down and preach to myself if I could in the live stream could still see me, okay? But it's not good for the live stream, so I happen to be the one with the microphone right now. So just know that I'm here with you. But we find ourselves being distracted and have a hard time being 100% present on a daily basis. And we know why, is there's cell phones and there's social media, there's tablets, and now there's electronic billboards everywhere that are LED lights that are like, there's one on Southfield that is so bright. I'm like, wow, it's going to cause an accident. They're everywhere. There's distractions everywhere. And then we have these things called notifications. Now, let's have a time of confession. How many of you have notification addiction? Raise your hand. When you hear the ding, you have to check it. Raise your hand. Come on. All right, yeah. And then you're like, okay, I'm going to let that one pass. And all of a sudden you start twitching a little bit. And then you eventually just grab it and you're like, oh, it's just Meyer telling me I have a new reward. Who cares, right? You swipe it and you keep going. But we have all these distractions. And then you have the Nielsen's latest ratings. Nielsen's ratings says that television, surprisingly, is still the most used electronic medium for U.S. adults. On average, Americans age 18 and older spend more than 4 hours a day watching TV, still beating the average for smartphone usage, which is 3 hours and 45 minutes a day. So it's pretty good. It's starting to lose its power, but it's still there, and you add those two together, that's a lot of distractions, right, going on in one person's day. And that's just external distractions. We haven't even talked about internal distractions. Like right now, some of you are looking at me, but I don't know that you're with me. Like, you may be giving me eye contact, but you're thinking about, okay, what am I going to eat for lunch? My stomach is growling. I'm going to need to start the crock pot, or hey, I forgot to make sure I got to wash all my masks this week, so I have them lined up for the week. And, your mind is just racing with all these things, and it's hard to be present. And this has gone on for a long time in human history. President, I'll get there in a second. Franklin Roosevelt, he said this. He was tired of just being in these White House parties because all these ambassadors and all these different people from different countries that were high in position would come, and he said nobody would listen to care about what he was saying. He would be in these long receiving lines, and they would just shake his hand and move on. And he said, I'm going to do an experiment, So he told his wife, he said, I'm going to tell everyone that I killed my grandmother last night. And as he began to go in this receiving line, and he would be like, I killed my grandmother last night. And people would say, excellent, great job, God bless you, Mr. President. And they just went on and on and on, and no one said one thing until the very last ambassador of Bolivia. He said, I killed my grandmother last night. And the ambassador leaned in and said, she probably had it coming. Right? So he was the only one out of all of them who was present. Mark Batterson, in his most recent book, Win the Day, says, according to psychologists Matthew Killingsworth and Daniel Gilbert, says the average person spends, listen to this, 46.9% of their time thinking about something else other than what they're currently doing in the moment. So that means we are half present half of the time, which means we're not fully living. We're distracted. And I face this temptation all of the time. I was at this oil change place one time, and when you're waiting, like, what are you going to do? A lot of people are just sitting down, with their heads down. But I'm like, I like to call people, so I started calling someone. I finally got a hold of somebody, and we were talking. Well, then the person at the front said, hey, your car's ready. And so I should have hung up the phone and been present, but I didn't. And so I'm talking while I'm trying to pay with the credit card and trying to talk to the guy as he's telling me what happened. And I was a jerk, If you're watching, guy from Quick Change, whatever it was called, please forgive me. And so I went ahead and did that. And then I realized when I was walking out the door, I had no idea what the other person just said the last 3 minutes. And they thought I had. So I had to tell them and say, hey, I'm so sorry. I was checking out at this place, and I had no idea what you said the last 3 minutes. Will you forgive me? Because we're distracted. And then there's the times where you're in a conversation, but you start to hear a conversation next to you, and it sounds interesting. Right? Am I the only one? Okay, thank you. Yeah. And so you begin to try to listen to that conversation, but as you try to do that, you actually only get bits and pieces of both. The one that you're in, you're supposed to be in, and the one that you're listening to. Distractions. It's a challenge for us, and being present and not being present, being distracted is normal. It's just kind of what we do. We try to multitask. You know, you're like, well, why should I just listen to a sermon when I can listen to the sermon and clean up my inbox before Monday? I mean, come on. That would be more productive, wouldn't it, Jeremy? And somehow productivity drives us, but yet this distraction has huge consequences. We have relationships and marriages that struggle. You know, most of the time trouble I get in is because I'm not listening or I'm not paying attention like I should. I'm not being the husband that I'm supposed to be. Or there's times that, have you ever done this as a parent, where your children's talking to you and you're shaking your head and you're nodding, but you have no idea what you're shaking your head and nodding to? And you get done, you're like, what did I just say yes to? Or what did I say? I don't know. And because you're distracted. And these are all the things that are normal, but it is wreaking havoc on friendships, on marriages, on the work environment. Productivity and quality has decreased, and all this continues and will continue to snowball out of control if we don't become present. And some people think, well, if I could just have more time, then I could really just get everything I need to get done, and then I'll have time to be present and focus on the most important things, like my spouse and my nieces, my nephews, my children, you know, my best friend, or whatever it may be. So I just thought we'd have a little fun here. We're going to pause for 3 minutes, and if you're watching online, you can either discuss with others in the chat feature or the comment section, or you can talk. If you're watching it with others, you can discuss with them. If you're by yourself, you can also just kind of think through the answer yourself. Or if you're in the auditorium, why don't you go ahead and put your mask on, because I'm going to ask you to kind of turn around and just have 3 minutes of discussion. And here's the fun question. Ready? If God decided to create an 8th day, how would you honestly use that extra time? Now, based on your current patterns of living, based on what you currently do, how do you think you would use that 8th day? Okay? Take 3 minutes, talks amongst yourselves. Ready, set, go. All right, 3 minutes is up. And I'm sure that you guys said I would take a long afternoon nap. I'm sure that some of you said I would take, extended time to journal and pray, spend time with the Lord. I'm sure some of you said I would fast social media to be completely engaged and present with my children or spouse. I'm sure these are things that you said. And so I wonder if the answer, I want you to listen to this. I wonder if the answer is not more time, but a greater awareness of the time that we already have. I want to say it one more time. I wonder if the answer isn't more time, but greater awareness of the time that we already have. Because the reality is, whatever our current patterns are of living, that would carry out if God created an 8th, a 9th, or a 10th day. It doesn't matter. Our tendencies would envelop those days as well. And so we're going to talk about being present today because it's a gift. Matthew 11:19 says, wisdom is shown to be right by its results. And so if what we are doing is working, if what is normal is working, then it would show in its results. But we are discovering that the results aren't exactly what bring life and connection and intimacy and healthy relationships that we long for. Then Proverbs 9:12 says, if you become wise, you will be the one to benefit. But if you scorn wisdom, you will be the one to suffer. So as we go through this series, we can hear and let it go one in one ear and out the other and make no changes, and that is everyone's prerogative, but we'll be the ones to suffer. It's kind of like an alignment on a vehicle. I don't know if you've ever had a vehicle that was really out of alignment, or if you ever had to go on a long road trip. That is frustrating because you are constantly on the highway having to move the car back into the lane. And that's kind of what being present we're going to have to do, because not one message is going to simply just change us for the rest of our lives to where we're constantly going to be present in every single moment. We're going to have to keep coming back to this and allowing the Lord to bring us back into alignment. Here at Why Not Family Church, we have a slogan each week. It's like the main theme throughout the message. And so if everyone together can repeat nice and loud today, if you can say, wherever you are, be all there. Wherever you are, be all there. If you have your Bibles, turn with me to Ephesians chapter 15. Ephesians is in the New Testament. There's 2 sections to the Bible. There's an Old Testament and a New Testament. Ephesians is a little bit in the New Testament. It's after Galatians, before Philippians. It was written by a guy named the Apostle Paul around 60 A.D. So about roughly 30 years after Jesus' death and resurrection. And he writes this to the church in Ephesus. Verse 15, be very careful how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity, because the days, they are evil. Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is. And you go ahead and keep that on the screen there. Paul was writing to a city that is a thriving society. It was actually the urban center and the capital of the province Asia. You say, why is that important? Because I think sometimes when we read Scripture, we think that it's so old and antiquated that it's not relevant to our modern society. But I want you to realize that Ephesus was a happening place. It was the most important city in Asia Minor, which was our modern-day Turkey. I want to put a picture on the screen here for you and show you just where Ephesus is. If you look right in the center of this picture, you'll see Asia. Then underneath it, it says Ephesus, right? See those blue lines coming in? It was perfectly situated to be a strategic trade route, bringing in connections and relations with people from all over that known world at that time. So tell me if this sounds familiar at all. Ephesus had people of different backgrounds, cultures, religious beliefs, philosophies, all mixing together in one spot. What does that sound like? Us. Yeah, America. So I'm sharing that because Ephesus is very much can relate to us in 2021. However, Paul is writing to them, challenging them about being present and using their present time wisely. I want to read Ephesians 5:15 again. It says, "Be very careful how you live, not as the unwise, but as the wise, making the most of every opportunity because the days are evil." That phrase there, "be very careful how you live," in the Greek, when you read the text in the Greek, it means to walk circumspectly. And what does that mean? It means to walk looking around, right? You are paying attention to your surroundings. You are not just walking aimlessly. You're not just walking following the crowd. You're not just walking just going with the flow, but you are literally strategically paying attention to how others are living and how you are living. Well, why is that important? Well, because just because something's acceptable doesn't mean it's beneficial. Just because something is normal in society doesn't mean it's healthy. Right? We need to be walking circumspectly, being careful how we live, paying attention to what is going around us. And it says, not as the unwise, but as the wise, right? Making the most of every opportunity. Now, in the Greek, making the most of every opportunity literally means redeeming. That's a different word. Well, redeem means to buy for oneself. Like when you're going to redeem that coupon, right? You know, I had a coupon from Kroger at $14 off. Come on now. I'm using that coupon. That's what I'm talking about. And I redeemed that puppy. And I was using that, right? And redeeming our time means we're buying it up for ourselves. We're seizing the day. We're taking advantage of the time that we have. So even though it may be chaotic around us, and even though we see other people living destructive lives around us, right, we can live differently, right? We can redeem the time in Christ to use it for His purposes. So if we're going to make the most of our jobs or our families or our schooling or our friendships, our marriages, I mean, you name it, then the number one enemy is going to be distraction and not being present. You know, I thought about this, and teenagers, I love you. Don't hate me, guys. Don't be hating, all right? Don't throw shade at me. Don't throw shade. I just used a Gen Z lingo there. Don't throw shade. It's common for teenagers, even young adults, to wear, you know, an earbud in their ear, and they walk around and they pretend like they're listening to you when you're having a conversation. Right? But while you're listening to music and having a conversation, that's distracted, right? That's not being fully present. But that's normal in our society. It's normal to walk around like this. And I remember one time I was at the airport, and I was just sitting there, and I looked, and about 90%, if not more, was doing this. And nobody was talking. This is pre-COVID, so, you know, they could talk, you know. And so, nobody was, everybody's in their own world, and I thought, man, I wonder what opportunities people are missing. What if God wants someone to encourage somebody else? What if someone needs a little bit of encouragement, and God's trying to, and everyone's just, you know, distracted? That's normal. It's normal to multitask. But I love what Ephesians 5:16 and 17 says, "Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is." Interesting, if you study this verse, when you hear the word foolish, you automatically think, you don't think of yourself, right? I don't think of myself. Hopefully you don't think of yourself, right? You don't think, that's me, woo-hoo! Like, sign me, that's job description, that describes me perfectly. No, but we think of someone who's just an idiot, someone who doesn't, has no common sense, someone who has no boundaries, that maybe they're just, you know, frivolous with their money, and they don't budget, they don't have a plan, right? They're just foolish. But in this context, I love what Phillips' translation is. It defines foolish as someone not knowing the meaning or purpose of life. See, one can be successful in cultural standpoints and standards and miss out completely on what matters most. So as a Christ follower, what matters most? What is our life's purpose and meaning? Well, number one, it's to love God, to glorify God. And two, Jesus said it, he summarized all of it into 2 commandments. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, your mind, your soul, and your strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. Right? Love God and love people. That is, if you're a Christ follower, that is your purpose for living. to know God, to love Him, to serve Him, to follow Him, and to love people. And so when you and I understand that is our priority in living, everything else fits into that umbrella, under that umbrella. Our job fits under that umbrella. Our marriages fit under that umbrella. You know, our friendships, our hobbies, our finances, everything fits under that umbrella. And if we do that, then we are living wisely, not foolishly, because we're living according to our purpose and our meaning. Then we'll be able to understand what the Lord's will is. So being present in our time and using our present time wisely. And it's easy to not only let culture divert us, but it's also easy to allow the chaotic tug of distractions just to pull us in the wrong direction. It's a daily drift we have to fight against. I'm sure as you're walking out of here, you're going to be tempted to walk out, to the car like this and not even talking to those around you. We have to constantly be reminded, but that's why the body of Christ is important, because we can encourage each other. We can hold each other accountable. You can give someone a holy tap. See, in the Old Testament and the New Testament, they give holy kisses, but now we give holy taps on the head. Like, what are you doing, brother? Right? Pay attention, right? You're being distracted again. We can do that, because wherever you are, be all there. There's a story of Yogi Berra. He was a catcher for the New York Yankees and a famous coach. And then you have Hank Aaron, who I guess just passed away yesterday, who was a phenomenal hitter. They were in the World Series. Hank Aaron played for Milwaukee. And Hank Aaron came to the plate, and Yogi Berra was known for being a talker. He loved to talk smack. He loved to get people going. He liked to cheer on his team. He was very motivational, which is probably why he was a good coach. But then he also would use it to get under the skin of his opponents. And so Hank Aaron comes up to the plate in the World Series, and Yogi Berra starts kind of talking smack, and he says this. He says, "Hey, Henry, you're holding the bat the wrong way. You're supposed to hold it so you can read the trademark." Hank Aaron doesn't acknowledge it, doesn't look at him, and just the next pitch comes, and he hits a home run to the left bleachers. And he trots around the bases, and as he comes around the bases, and he comes at home base, he looked at Yogi Berra, and he says, "I didn't come here to read." I love that. I love that. And see, you and I didn't come here to acquire a bunch of stuff or become production machines that accomplish all these things. We came here to love God and glorify God and love people. And as we fulfill that mission, we live fulfilled lives. And normal isn't working. There's a lot of productive people that are miserable. There's a lot of productive people that are wondering, what is the meaning of life? There's a lot of rich people that are still searching for something because they still haven't quite figured out why they are here, not what the purpose of their life is. And so when we begin to understand, we didn't come here just to read. I love that. We've come to be a mission for God and to love God. And so I love what Pastor Andy Stanley, he wrote a book called The Best Question Ever. And he says that when we're trying to figure out what the wise thing to do is, or make wise decisions, that the question we ask isn't can I do it, but is it wise for me to do it? Well, how does that play out in our daily life? Well, if a friend asks you, "Hey, do you want to come over to dinner on Friday?" Or, "Hey, how about let's go out February 4th? I want to go to Red Lobster, okay? Restaurants are open. Let's go. I want to sit and eat as many biscuits as I want," right? And so your friend says, "Hey, let's go to Red Lobster." Well, you could look at your calendar and go, "Well, I'm free. I'm sure, why not? Let's go." And that's not a bad thing. But when you say, what's the wise thing to do, maybe you go, "Okay, hey, I'm getting out of debt, and I'm changing my life, and so I currently can't afford to go out to eat without having to charge it and hopefully pay it later. And so is it wise for me? Is it the wise thing for me to do?" Or maybe you're trying to get better relationship with your spouse and reignite connection. And so you set aside a date night, and all of a sudden you look at your calendar, and that's the night that you're going to have a date night, and you ask yourself, is it the wise thing for me to do? Right? Or maybe you have been losing weight, and if you go to Red Lobster, you're going to be eating 10 of those biscuits. And so You're like, I have lost 10 pounds already. I'm doing good, and I love my friend, but is it the wise thing for me, to do? Maybe I'll catch them after. Maybe I can invite them over my house, and we can hang out there. So there's a lot of things. And so when it comes to being wise, we have to ask those questions and say, okay, what is the wise thing for me to do? Because James 4:14 says this, what is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little while, and then it what? It vanishes. And I'm only 42, but man, every year is flying by faster and faster and faster. And it feels like sand in an hourglass that is just falling through my hands. So we have to be present and then use our present time wisely. Right? Wherever you are, be all there. There was this father who, realized that he had not been very present. And he wanted to change his life. And he wanted to do things differently. And he had several kids, but one particularly, his oldest daughter, was getting closer to graduating high school. And so he had this idea. And he went to the store and he bought a bunch of marbles. And he took the marbles and he put them in a jar. And he put one marble for every Saturday that he had left with his daughter. And after every Saturday night, he would go in and he would pull out a marble and he would put it back into where he got it from as a symbolic reminder of the limited time that he had with his daughter before she went off to college or moved away. And he said this, which I thought was very funny. He said, everybody is going to lose their marbles. So why not choose how you lose them? And you and I have been given this gift of the present moment. We're not promised tomorrow. I'm not promised tomorrow. I could live 1 more year, 10 more years, 20, 30 more years, I don't know. But God has called me, called you to love Him and love people. That is what we're placed on this planet to do. That is our primary meaning for living. And so we have to fight what is normal and begin to show a different narrative to our culture. Be the one to stand up in a crowd where everyone has the neck down syndrome and begin to have conversation. Be the one to look at people in the eyes when you have a conversation, right? Be the one to set everything aside to be present, because God is working and God is doing something that you and I may miss. And here's the cool thing. When you and I will be more present, every relationship that we value in our life will get healthier. Our friendships, our relationships with our children, our spouses, our church family relationships, it all happens. Wherever you are, let's be all there. So I want to pray for you because, and I ask that you pray for me, because this is something that seems so trivial, but it's only going to get worse because we live in a production society. The drive to get more done is only going to scream a little bit louder down our neck, and so we need each other to say, hey, let's take a breath, let's be present, because you're more important than my to-do list. Let's go ahead and bow our heads and pray. Lord, we need